This is NDTV. And you're watching NDTV Hindu.
Welcome to SL Chennai Speaks Out. This is a show where all of us Chennaites get a chance to air our views and to talk about the issues that concern us. Today's program is about domestic violence. This is an issue that has come out in the open not so very long ago. Our main panelists are Sheila Jayprakash, a very well-known city advocate who has dealt a lot with the issue of domestic violence, both on behalf of women and of men. And we have MP Nirmala, who's an IAS officer. She's Commissioner for Social Welfare and is also currently looking after social defense. And we've invited 50 very special Chennaites to take part in our program today. Let's start, of course, first by asking our audience to speak out and to tell us how many know what domestic violence actually means. So, let's ask the audience. How many of you know what domestic violence means? If you can put up your hands. Everybody knows. Does everybody know there? Well, no, we have still a few hands up there that haven't gone up. Okay, perhaps now it's time for us to turn to Sheila here and ask Sheila to explain to us in detail what domestic violence actually means.
Domestic violence is violence within a relationship, a domestic relationship. The new Act, the Domestic Violence, Prevention of Domestic Violence Act of 2005, has three salient features. One would be the definition of violence. We have a very broad definition of violence which takes within its ambit physical abuse, mental abuse, which we have been used to. It has also taken into account economic abuse. And economic abuse goes on to say any property that a woman is divested of, any property that she could use and she has been prohibited from using. Economic violence has gone into detail. Then we've also had introduced sexual violence. See, marital rape has not been recognized by any of our laws. In fact, it becomes an exception to everything. A rape law exception is within marriage. So I think it's of special importance that sexual violence has been included in the Domestic Violence Act, Prevention of Domestic Violence Act. The second salient feature would be the definition of domestic relationship. Any law that took into account a domestic relationship so far concentrated only on a husband and wife relationship. Was it for divorce or for maintenance, guardianship, custody of children, succession, inheritance, zeroed in only on the marital relationship. Today, the definition of domestic relationship in this act includes relationship of a husband and wife, relationship by blood, that is a mother against a son, a sister against a brother, or a daughter against a father, as well as other relationships by adoption, as well as what we could term common law relations.
So what is it, Sheila, then that we're suddenly hearing so much about domestic violence? We're reading about it in the papers, we're watching it on television, we are hearing people with cases, you know. How come suddenly this whole ugly thing has raised its head?
I don't think domestic violence or violence within a home is of recent origin. I think as long as we had families, we've had domestic abuse within the families. But I think today we've got this law as a remedy for a social evil. It has been rather high profile, and so as people get to know about it and as you have a remedy, you know that you had a right that was being violated.
Right. This is, of course, the whole purpose of us choosing domestic violence, because now suddenly people have recourse they have somewhere to go to. Now, Nirmala, can I ask you here, as somebody who's in charge of social welfare, how many cases would you have seen in terms of domestic violence?
Yeah, first of all, I would like to say that this Domestic Violence Act is a civil act. It is, there are provisions in criminal law, but this act is a civil act. So far, we have come across 2,370 cases. In our, it was tried by my protection officers. At present, we are having 31 protection officers in all the districts except the newly created districts. And then nearly 130 cases they have counseled, and without even going to the court, it was settled. Outside the court, it was settled.
Right. May I interrupt you here? You were talking about a number of around 2,000.
Yeah.
So since when? And are you talking about Tamil Nadu alone?
I am talking about Tamil Nadu alone,
and
for the past 6 months. From
months.
October onwards, we have this case last year, and then afterwards we have appointment of protection officer and other things takes little time, and then now I think for the past 6 months we have this figure 2,370 cases. What I have mentioned is within a 6 months period.
Right. And before that?
Before that, I think we have our rules have been promulgated, and then so the law is now taking its course now, and most of the cases which went to the court for settlement and other things, now it is coming to the protection officer. People started knowing that this is an act which is exclusively for the women, and the people started coming to the government. It is not somebody else for protection.
Right. Well, later on in our show, we're going to be talking about recourse for men.
Yes.
Because it can work both ways, can't it, Sheila?
Yes, it can.
It can, right?
It can.
Okay, fine. At this point, perhaps I'll just go back and look at some of the most important features of this act, which Sheila here was talking about. So it includes physical violence, sexual abuse, verbal abuse, economic abuse, and emotional abuse. Is that, have I got it right?
Yes, you
Right. Now, tell me, Sheila, you talked about the fact that it can apply to so many different forms of relationship. Of all of the cases that you might have seen in your career, which is the one that comes up the most?
The maximum number of cases come between husband and wife, but we have been seeing the cases of live-in relationships coming, as that has been on the rise as far as I can see, and that is one part of the law which has been criticized when it was being drafted, when it was being passed, and right now, saying that it would encourage such things. But I hold a different view. I think men have never been accountable for this live-in relationship, because the woman there was divested of all rights under the law. She had no right to claim maintenance, and if she was not a Hindu, the children had no right. But here, for the first time, a man who just walked into a live-in relationship cannot walk out, because she has recourse to law.
Right. I think that's a very, very important point that Sheila has made here. It's time for us, we'll just take a very short break, but when we come back, we'll go to this very point about the fact that live-in relationships are not quite as simple as they might appear to be. Take a short break. Be back with you.